Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Over the past week, I dropped a video ranking all 15 party members and all of the home worlds in Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader. I want to continue that ranking series by now moving on to Origins. The Origins in this game are super cool and have a major impact on your experience. They are also completely different, and that can make it difficult to determine what are the best options. Therefore, I thought it would be fun to compare them and try to determine what are the top tier selections. Later this week, I will release a ranking video for the archetypes as well, so definitely be on the lookout for more Rogue Trader content. All Origins have the main feature that you are automatically provided with, along with charismatic and skill modifiers you receive as well. Then they will also have Origin advancement modifiers, and this means the characteristic and skill will be available to increase regardless of what archetype you choose. This can be very useful in some situations. For example, Psyker lets you increase willpower regardless of your archetype. Most archetypes don't have willpower as one of the characteristics you increase, but you need to do that to make the most of your Psyker abilities. Then at the bottom, there's a list of optional talents. You do not automatically receive them, but as you level up, you will be presented with opportunities to select from this list if you so choose. There is some small degree of reactivity to your origin within the game, and consequently, I will talk about the role-playing opportunities here in addition to the mechanics. Alright, I think that's enough of an introduction, so let's go ahead and get into the ranking. All the way at the bottom, number 8 is Navy Officer. Unlike every other choice on this list, this option completely sucks, and I strongly recommend you ignore it. The only redeeming quality is your ridiculously cool armor. The main feature is Brace for Impact, which can only be used once per combat and lasts for one round. Your character and all allies in a 3-cell radius gain up to +2 or +6 deflection depending on how many archetypes you have taken. In addition, none of you can be forcefully moved or over penetrated. So on the positive side, this can be a nice option early in the game to make your party more tanky at the beginning of combat. On the negative side, it's only available once per combat, it only lasts for one round, and at most it provides a +6 deflection bonus, which isn't nearly enough to make a major dent in how much damage enemies do by mid-game unless you are stacking other deflection equipment on top of it. That means most likely you should be pairing this feature with heavy armor, but the Origin gives you a bonus in agility, which in a heavy armor build is worthless. Also, the first party member you get, and arguably one of the best in the entire game, is Abelard, and he comes with the Navy Officer Origin. The mechanics here aren't nearly good enough to justify having 2 NOs on the same squad. Despite this, there are 2 optional talents worth considering. Get Into Cover provides allies affected by Brace for Impact with an extra turn. During the turn, they can use 3 momentum points, activate a heroic act, or use other momentum abilities. This could be an interesting way to help your team get into the best positioning. Another interesting option is Get Off Me, which upgrades Brace for Impact so that it knocks enemies prone, pushes them 1 cell away, and you can use ranged weapons in threatened areas. Definitely a nice bit of crowd control for when you are getting overrun. From a role-playing standpoint, Navy Officer places you in the role of someone who used to command a void ship in the Imperial Navy, and therefore you get special reactivity in some conversations referring to ships or when speaking to people responsible for the upkeep of ships. I found the majority of this content to be weak in the base game outside of a couple of standout moments. It is worth noting that the Void Shadows expansion added multiple interesting points of reactivity and helps flesh out the experience a little bit more. Overall, I'd say this option is dead last and really not worth considering. Next at number 7, we have Commissar. This is a decent option for officers, but otherwise I don't recommend it. The main feature is At All Costs, which causes your next single shot or single target melee attack to mark the enemy. When an ally kills this enemy, Following their turn, they will get an extra turn with +2 AP and +4 MP. Alternatively, you can target an ally instead to provide your entire team with +1 AP and +3 MP for 1 round. This ability can only be used once per combat, and you cannot gain the bonuses yourself. Like Brace for Impact, it's unfortunate this can only be used once per combat, but I like it more because it can potentially provide an action point for the entire team, and it's clearly much more focused on offense. The first round oftentimes decides the entire fight, so being able to wipe out as many enemies as possible is key. On the flip side, while +1 AP is very useful in the early game, by mid-game it isn't nearly as impactful. While providing an extra turn is nice, this effect is mimicked by the Overseer archetype, and it's much easier to ensure the exact right person receives that extra turn. This isn't bad, but other origin features are much better. There are a couple of optional talents worth considering. Duty and Honor increases the AP and MP bonuses for the team-wide version of At All Costs by 1. In exchange, it also increases the amount of damage allies suffer by 50%. In most fights, you should be able to wipe out the majority of enemies before they ever hit you, so this is definitely worth considering, even though 50% is very impactful. Show Them Contempt is triggered when you are adjacent to an enemy and provides a team-wide bonus to resolve equal to half your fellowship bonus, which should be sky high. Definitely another nice option to consider. From a role-playing standpoint, Commissar lets you play as a ruthless officer who berates or even directly harms subordinates to ensure they are always giving maximum effort. That should have been fertile ground for amazing rogue trader reactivity, but unfortunately, Commissar is one of the weakest options on this list from that standpoint. There are long dry spots where you won't get any reactivity dialogue, and there's a couple of moments that pretty clearly should have had something special for this origin, and for whatever reason, it's not there. Not bad, but they are much better picks. Next at number 6, we have Astra Militarum Commander. This origin is useful for all builds, but it's especially fantastic when you are a ranged character on a team that uses a lot of burst weapons, area of effects, and grenades to deal damage that allies cannot avoid. The main feature is Regimental Tactics, and this provides a massive damage bonus that scales with your perception rating against enemies that are adjacent to you or your allies until the end of your next turn. At minimum, this bonus will be 26%, and the value can potentially skyrocket if your character focuses on perception. In addition, your team suffers no damage from attacks made by allies for the same duration. This can only be used once per combat. This feature is great, but unlike higher ranked options on the list, it's not automatically great. You need to build the overall team around it, and in my opinion, that can get annoying. To trigger the damage increase, you or your allies must be adjacent to enemies, and that means you want to be a very melee, shotgun, or arch militant heavy party. Also, you want allies using bolters, flamers, hammers, or similar weapons that could potentially hit friends to wipe out large groups of foes. That means your team will be incredible when Regimental Tactics is available, but when it's not, an additional layer of strategy will be placed into your run as you attempt to ensure allies don't wipe each other out. For some of you, that sounds like a dream come true, but for others, it will just serve as an irritation, so carefully consider if this feature works for you. There are a couple of optional talents worth noting. Shoulder to Shoulder is triggered when you are adjacent to an ally and allows you to deal additional damage to enemies adjacent to your allies that scales with your perception bonus. This bonus also stacks with Regimental Tactics, so you could potentially be an absolute monster when attacking foes next to your friends. Field of Fire provides your allies with a 5% bonus to rate of fire for every time they have attacked after you activate Regimental Tactics. This is nothing short of insane on characters with bolters or similar weapons and will basically make it feel like they never stop firing. From a role-playing standpoint, Astra Militarum makes you a former leader in the Imperial Guard. Consequently, you get reactivity relating to life as a guardsman and how you are used to dreadful situations while engaging in campaigns against heretics. It's not bad, but again, there are definitely stronger reactivity options options available to you. Overall, Astra Militarum Commander can be very strong in certain builds, but I think the options above it are potent across a much wider swath of playthroughs. Speaking of which, next at number 5 is Ministorum Priest, an interesting option for any character operating at close or medium range. Its main feature is War Hymn, which grants you momentum equal to twice your willpower bonus. In addition, it will grant you momentum equal to your willpower bonus for each enemy that is within a 5-cell radius around you or was hit by you that turn. Early game, this is amazing because momentum will be hard to come by. Running into a group of enemies, triggering this, and then immediately having access to a heroic act is very satisfying. On the flip side, and this is actually a problem with the entire origin, willpower is only useful as a main characteristic for psychers. That means every point you place in willpower only helps your priest abilities. It doesn't help to empower your archetype. In fact, there are no archetypes that even allow you to increase willpower. So it's only added to your list due to priests making it available. So most characters will focus on ballistic skill and perception, or weapon skill and agility, or some other combination as their top 2 characteristics, and then whatever is left over gets dumped into willpower. Consequently, it never feels like you are really getting the maximum value for what mechanics are provided, and I personally just do not care for that experience. There are a couple of optional talents worth considering. Flensing Faith gives you a bonus to the damage and armor penetration of your melee, flame, and melta attacks that scales with your willpower bonus. The bonus becomes even more powerful if you are facing Xenos, which are plentiful by Act 2. This is great stuff, and if you plan to create a flamer-wielding character, Priest is a fabulous choice. The Emperor Protects provides a percentage chance to ignore any enemy attack that scales with your willpower bonus. Even if the chance is small, rolling the dice on complete immunity is a great option. From a role-playing perspective, Ministorum Priest places you in the role of someone who used to associate with the Adeptus Ministorum, or the Ecclesiarchy. This is a very strong choice because there's a ton of content in the game that is positively reinforced by being a priest, even if it isn't directly priest reactivity. You will be presented with multiple opportunities to make the sign of Aquila in support of the Emperor, loudly proclaim your devotion to the Emperor, and interact with members of the Ecclesiarchy, which will sometimes provide special dialogue options. Your party member Agenta is also a priest, and she delights in standing shoulder to shoulder with another ardent supporter of the Imperium, and it reinforces the positive aspects of playing as a priest even more. This isn't a bad choice, odd focus on willpower notwithstanding. Next on the list at number 4, we have Crime Lord. Technically, this option is great for everyone, but it really shines for characters who are focusing on intelligence and perception. Right off the bat, that clues you in that this origin matches perfectly with Operative, which I consider to be the weakest archetype, but Crime Lord makes it more appealing. The main feature is Surefire Plan, and you get stacks of this effect equal to your intelligence bonus. Once you activate one stack, what happens depends on your next action. If you attack, then you'll receive a percentage bonus to damage that scales with perception. If you move, you'll gain a percentage bonus to dodge and parry that scales with perception. If you use a non-damaging ability on an enemy, then that enemy will suffer a percentage penalty to damage for 1 round that scales with your intelligence. This ability can be used multiple times per turn, so you can buff your move and then buff your attack separately, or whatever other combination you choose. So obviously this can be an awesome way to buff an action that you want to take. Keep in mind the damage increase only applies to one attack. So if you, for example, use a burst attack, it will only apply once. Consequently, no other character benefits from Crime Lord more than snipers. On top of that, operatives not only benefit greatly from focusing on intelligence and perception, they also have multiple talents and abilities that focus on improving your long-range capabilities. So all the way around, this is a great combination, although you could use that for melee combatants or other characters types if you so choose. The obvious drawback of this feature is that the number of stacks you get depends on intelligence, and most builds don't depend on that characteristic. There are a couple of optional talents worth considering. Contingency Plan triggers if at the start of your turn you have no stacks of Surefire Plan and provides you with 1 stack. This is fantastic if you have low intelligence or you are using a build that benefits from burning through multiple stacks of SFP. Disorienting Plan causes enemies affected by SFP to also suffer a percentage penalty to dodge and parry that scales with your perception bonus. If you are focusing on perception, then this could reach 40% by end game, and that is clearly very beneficial. From a role-playing standpoint, Crime Lord puts you in the shoes of someone who used to be a part of the Imperium's criminal element. Similar to Priest, this option is very strong, not just because of the direct reactivity, but also moments that all Origins receive but hit harder when you are a Crime Lord. There are a ton of smugglers, pirates, and criminals that you meet throughout the game. Oftentimes you have the opportunity to be lenient towards them or even align yourself with them. Another cool aspect of this reactivity is that the game makes it seem like you were a big deal, not just some petty crook. There's an emphasis on the Lord in Crime Lord, and you are presented as someone who is very well connected and can get things done even if they are underhanded. It's a great experience, especially if you are not dogmatic. Overall, Crime Lord presents some great options, but from a build perspective, it's a little too limiting, so I place it lower on the list. Hey, quick note, if you hung around this long, you are probably enjoying the video, so I would appreciate you hitting that like button and showing some support. It really does help the channel, and if you are interested in supporting in other ways, there are links in the description. I really appreciate it. Coming up at number 3 on the list is Noble. This is the ultimate origin for officers, and right off the bat, that makes Noble better than a lot of other options. While Officer is a support archetype, it is absolutely the most powerful one in the game, and your playthrough will be significantly easier if you have 2 on the team. The main feature is you serve me and let you select 1 ally as a servant until the end of combat. Anytime your abilities affect the servant, they will gain a +5 bonus to all characteristics until the start of your next turn. In addition, when your servant attacks a target that you previously dealt damage to on your last turn, they will have a percentage bonus to critical hit chance that scales with your fellowship bonus, which should be massive. This ability can only be used once per combat. Many people strongly dislike this feature because it's not nearly as powerful as some other options, and I agree, but I have a soft spot for it. From a role-playing perspective, it fits Noble perfectly, and the large bonuses it provides will be of great benefit to your primary damage dealer. There are more potent options available, but this is still great stuff. There are a couple of optional talents worth considering. You do something. Provide your servant with +1 AP on their next turn when you use an ability on them. No question, you'll trigger this every fight, and it's great stuff, especially early in the game. You Kill It is triggered when your servant kills a target that you dealt damage to on your last turn and allows you to gain +1 AP on your next turn. Again, this is something you will trigger on a very regular basis. From a role-playing perspective, Noble places you in the shoes of a member of high nobility within the Imperium. In my opinion, from a role-playing standpoint, it's the best option on this list. So first, obviously, you are becoming a rogue trader, which is royalty in and of itself. So it makes perfect sense that you would start as a noble. Throughout the game, you will have conversations with other nobility who treat you either as an equal or frankly, as someone who they serve. Consequently, even when the game doesn't directly provide noble reactivity, it feels like the game is treating you like a noble. On top of this, there's a companion named Abelard who you can use to answer questions from peasants and oftentimes introduce you to new people. This is available regardless of what origin you choose, but it feels incredible when you are role-playing as a noble. I believe that selecting this origin and keeping Abelard in your party is the best way to experience this game for the first time. All that being said, Noble is perfect for a support role, and many players will prefer to focus on damage. And as I mentioned before, its feature isn't as powerful as some other origins, so even though the role-playing side is amazing, I only just barely put this option in the top 3. Next at number 2 is Sanctioned Psyker, and this is by far the most complicated and layered origin in the entire list. The main feature is literally that you are a Psyker, which is basically Warhammer's version of the mage. Becoming a Psyker gives you a standard list of optional talents when leveling up. 4 of them increase your Psyker rating, which essentially determines how powerful a Psyker you are. So while they are optional, you absolutely will need to take them. Another must-have option is Stabilizing Factor, which decreases how much Veil degradation is impacted by your Psyker abilities. As you use your powers, Veil degradation will increase, and the higher it is, the greater likelihood of unanticipated triggers occurring due to your powers, such as an explosion that kills your character or summoning a demon that attacks the entire party. There can be advantages to letting degradation run wild, but most people will probably want to keep it down. The fun doesn't stop there though, because there are 5 different versions of Psyker, and all of them have one feature ability the category automatically comes with, and then a list of optional talents and abilities. You can select one of these categories during character creation, and then while leveling up, instead of getting a new ability, you can select a new category instead, allowing you to combine these options in any way you choose. Biomancer focuses more on melee combat and physical buffs or debuffs. Many builds use Biomancer in part because of biophysical distortion, which allows your damaging Psyker powers to also poison enemies. That's a great option pretty much regardless of your build. Your party member Heinrichs automatically comes with Biomancer. Diviner focuses strictly on buffing. A great option here is Prescience, which increases a character's intelligence, perception, fellowship, and willpower by an amount that scales with your psi rating. Bonus points if you are an overseer and can place this on your entire party. Honestly, I would say Diviner isn't worth picking for yourself unless you really want to focus on buffing, but it's a great option for your party member Adira, who automatically comes with this selection. She has 2 Psyker categories, whereas you will only be able to select one at character creation. Pyromancer is all about damage. You'll automatically get Ignite, which can target one opponent and burn them for an amount that scales with your psi rating, while also causing additional damage if the target starts burning. This lights enemies up on its own, but you can get into some real fun if you use it on yourself, because hitting an enemy in melee combat while you are on fire causes additional damage, and depending on what else you have selected, other crazy effects can be triggered as well. When the game first launched, Pyromancer was a weak option for ranged characters, but now it's been buffed, and fire will absolutely melt through enemies. Sanctic is focused on buffing and damage, but in a different way from Pyromancer. Instead of depending on fire, your resolve and belief in the Emperor powers your attacks against Xenos and heretics. The best power associated with this category is actually available to everyone via a staff. In addition to all of the Psyker abilities you can select from while leveling up, there are also staffs with unique Psyker powers. One of them is Emperor's Wrath, which allows you to deal damage to all enemies within a 10-foot radius. Combined with buffs from Sanctic, the amount of damage you can do with this is truly insane and can render many conflicts trivial. Heinrichs automatically comes with Sanctic. Note that you can only use Psyker staffs if you are a Psyker, so it's yet another reason this origin is so fantastic. Finally, Telepath focuses on debuffing and mental damage. It's fantastic at both, and a great option is Psychic Assault, which lets you deal major damage in a cone, and all characters must pass a willpower test or they become stunned. This is yet another ability that can wipe out groups. So as you can see, outside of Diviner, all of these are great options for your main character. All of them can potentially deal a ton of damage, and they interact with each other in interesting ways. From a role-playing perspective, Psyker puts you in the role of someone who is a sanctioned Psyker, which means you have these dangerous and feared abilities, but the Emperor allows it, so you are more accepted than, say, Adira, who is an unsanctioned Psyker. Still, there is a ton of reactivity here in regards to how much people fear you or are fascinated by your abilities. There are also multiple points where you deal with other Psykers and get special dialogue options for recognizing or resisting what they do. Psyker probably has more reactivity and Rogue Trader than any of the other origins. So with all that being said, why is it number 2 instead of number 1? I have 2 issues with Psyker, one of them mechanical and one of them from a role-playing standpoint. Mechanically, Psyker doesn't play nice with anything else. All of the other origins we have reviewed will play nicely with your archetype and pretty much anything you are trying to do. Psyker, for the most part, requires you to skip archetype abilities and select Psyker abilities instead. You need to skip origin and homeworld talents and take Psyker talents instead. You need to skip origin, homeworld, and archetype talents and take Psyker talents instead. It basically feels like an archetype that is pretending to be an origin. That is very powerful, but it's also very limiting. From a role-playing standpoint, while there is a ton of Psyker content, it can also feel unsatisfactory. Because content about Psykers comes up so often, there's a lot of moments in the game where it seems like you should have reactivity, but you don't. Even worse, there are many moments where the game doesn't allow you to react properly to a situation, considering that you have a Psyker background. So it's more like a quantity over quality type of deal, and to be honest, I think options like Noble and Crime Lord provide a much more consistent role-playing experience. These two factors together just barely knock Psyker out of the top spot. Top dog on this list is Arbitrator, which is only available if you have purchased the Lex Imperialis expansion. I'll briefly go over the mechanics here, but if you want a more robust breakdown, there will be a link in the description. Similar to Psyker, Arbitrator has a list of categories you could choose from, so it doesn't provide a feature up front, just a list of optional talents. One of the key factors that makes Arbitrator so deadly is they are focused around attacks of opportunity, so you'll probably want to get public sentencing ASAP. This will provide you with an attack of opportunity against any enemy who fails a willpower resistance test while adjacent to you. Multiple party members have different ways to cause this situation, and it's absolutely amazing to witness, especially if you are wielding a shotgun. To make it even more powerful, you're probably going to want to pick up Prepared Prosecution, which allows you to place arbitrators directly next to enemies during the tactical phase, something no other character can do. So right off the bat, if you force them to fail willpower test, or if you have someone like Cassia who can force enemies to move in certain directions, your arbitrator will light them up. Now let's move into the categories. Each one comes with 2 features automatically and then a couple of optional abilities or talents. Each category is unique, but the mechanics here are not nearly as layered as they are with Psyker, so there's still plenty of room to get whatever else you want. Vigilant is focused on shotguns, and a patch that was paired with Lex Imperialis upgrade those weapons, so now they only cost 1 action point to use and they can absolutely wipe out rooms. You will really appreciate Swift Justice, which provides a monstrous percentage increase to the damage you deal towards enemies that have already been damaged by you or your familiar if you choose Overseer as the tier 2 archetype. At minimum, this increase will be 46%, but it scales with coercion, so it can easily be much higher, which is bananas. Obviously, if you want, you can use 1 2-handed shotgun, but that's not the only way you can play this origin. Outcat has added 1-handed pistol-like weapons that actually operate as shotguns, allowing you to basically have a shotgun in one hand and a shield in the other. There's also a talent for wielding 2-handed shotguns in one hand, allowing you to use full shotguns with a shield or even dual-wielding shotguns if you prefer. Running and gunning with a shield in one hand and a shotgun in the other is a ton of fun and incredibly powerful throughout your experience. The party member Solomon is a vigilant arbitrator who uses a compact shotgun and a shield along with his Cyber Mastiff familiar. Castigator is focused on playing more of a support role for your team, buffing allies and debuffing enemies. To be honest, I'm not very high on its mechanics, but there are definitely people who speak highly of this option. That's in order allows you to choose a cell within a 6-cell radius, and all enemies within a 3-cell radius must pass a willpower resistance test or they will move to the designated cell, even if that triggers an attack of opportunity. There's a penalty on the test that scales with your coercion skill. So basically, this lets you operate like a poor man's Cassia, which could potentially be useful. Finally, Subductor focuses on shields, which were added with the Lex Imperialis expansion as well. It comes with Assault Onslaught, which allows you to dash in a straight line up to 5 cells through allies and enemies. Each enemy must pass an agility resistance test or they fall prone until the start of your next turn. This does not use your movement points, so if you are a warrior, you can use your MP, charge, and then use this ability all on the same turn, making you by far the most mobile party member on the team early game. It's definitely useful, but this is only available if you are wielding a shield. Even outside of this origin, there are multiple talents and one ability available that will expand your capabilities to use shields. From a role-playing standpoint, Arbitrator places you in the shoes of a former member of the Adeptus Arbites. That means you are a staunch follower of the Lex Imperialis, and there's a ton of reactivity for that type of character in the expansion that bears the same name. Outside of the expansion, there are many interactions where you are able to remind subjects to follow the law. As I mentioned before, Noble is the best role-playing experience, and therefore superior in that manner to Arbitrator. Also, Psyker is bananas from a mechanics perspective and overshadows what's offered here. This option is number one due to balance. It's not as mechanically layered as Psyker, but it also doesn't dominate everything else on your character sheet to the point that it's the number one focus, and the role-playing experience is more consistent, so I like it more. The role-playing potential isn't as strong as Noble, but it is quite good, and mechanically it's significantly better. Even more importantly, from a role-playing standpoint, something Arbitrator lets you do that isn't an option anywhere else on the list is actually dress the part. As you advance the game, you will get equipment that is meant specifically for arbitrators, and it will look like things they would wear. All other origins will basically just look like combatants. You won't look like a noble, you won't look like a priest or a crime lord, but you can absolutely go through the majority of the game looking exactly like someone who has come to enforce the Lex. All of that together makes me place Arbitrator in the number one spot. That completes my video ranking all of the origins in Rogue Trader. Again, I've already done a video ranking the companions and the home worlds, so if you haven't already, be sure to check that out, and a video ranking the archetypes will be coming out soon as well, so be on the lookout for that content. Please be sure to like this video, share it with anyone who appreciates Rogue Trader content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.